Now, some days you just have to say what's on your mind. My family witnessed a horrific road rage attack close to our home this weekend. Blood-covered protagonists going at each other for the kill with an axe on a road that we travel to work on every day. It was a rude awakening for me, but then a sad realization also that this happens every day on our roads here in South Africa. Yes, our roads, seemingly a constant point in the national discourse. The funding of the e-toll system, laws, and the like remains complicated and challenging. Last week, the South African Roads Agency, together with the Transport Department, made submissions to the e-tolling review panel in Pretoria last week. Now, joining us for our monthly road slot is Justice Project South Africa Chairman Howard Dembowski. Very good morning to you, Howard. Thank you for joining us once again.
Good morning to you, Eben, and good morning to all the viewers.
Howard, I know we've got some serious business to discuss, but let's start with this road rage attack. Seriously? Are you kidding me? With an axe on the highway that turned off right by my house. My wife drove past there, and the guy covered in blood, attacking the other guy. It's insane.
It most certainly is, and one has to ask, what next? Are we going to have a chainsaw massacre on our roads? The fact is that people are very, very angry. They tend to take the law into their own hands and decide to punish people that they see as being delinquent road users, etc., etc. Whether that punishment comes in the form of raising a middle finger, or any finger for that matter, to another motorist, or taking out an axe and trying to hack them to death. The fact is that all of these things have catalysts. Those catalysts are generally somebody breaking a road traffic law to start with. The fact is that this degeneration has been going on now over a significant period of time, at least the last 10 years, in Johannesburg in particular. And the net result of this is that we have these kind of incidents because there is such a poor concentration on physical law enforcement. The JMPD has decided that its mandate is to make money by taking happy snaps of motorists speeding on freeways and in other areas, and it does very little other enforcement. In fact, the Road Traffic Infringement Agency's annual report, which came out recently, actually put out the fact that 92.8% of all of the JMPD's enforcement is camera enforcement by speed cameras, and the remaining 7.8% comes down to physical enforcement. That's just not good enough, and it's high time that citizens started demanding that our traffic authorities did their jobs that they're getting paid for, that they're mandated under the Constitution to fulfill, but they are just blindly ignoring in the pursuit of money.
What must we do about road rage as a nation? Because this latest attack has racial undertones to it. Even the paramedics didn't want to help the one person. Some claim racism and so forth. But it's not one race or the other that's to blame here. I've been abused on the roads by everybody, all races in South Africa. Now, I ask you, is it not time for us to put together structures so that we deal with this residual anger on the roads?
Well, yes, it's shocking, and yes, to default to playing the race card on this particular issue is somewhat sad, because it occurs, and we've seen instances where the people inflicting the violence on other people are of the same racial group. So it's got nothing really to do with race. It's got everything to do with pent-up anger, and that pent-up anger, as I said, originates, and I think we need to look at the root cause here. It originates at the root of the fact that people do not behave themselves on our roads, and they've got to this situation because they know that they're actually not going to be taken to task by law enforcement authorities. However, when our courts deal with such people, they need to deal with these people in a very harsh manner. And I would actually say that there's possibly a very good cause now to bring up a new category of offence, being road rage, so that we can put in minimum penalties and sentence people to jail quite frankly, for this kind of behavior. It's completely unnecessary. No person has the right to beat up another person under any circumstances. But when it comes down to them doing it because they think that they are more important on our roads than anybody else, that's a problem, and we need to deal with it harshly.
Let's talk quickly about the e-tolls and your response to last week. Fuel levy debates continue. How do you view that?
Well, yeah, but it was actually quite amusing, I suppose, because those of us in the know that the Gauteng e-tolls review panel has a very, very narrow mandate. Its mandate is to review the socio-economic impact of e-tolling on the province of Gauteng. Unfortunately, the Department of Transport, SANRAL and Treasury decided to club together and not even get their story straight, because they came up with all different figures between them. But they decided to get together and conflate this entire issue into an issue of maintaining and building roads in the entire country of South Africa. In so doing, they proposed that an extra fuel levy, it was first off, an extra fuel levy of R3.65 per litre be added, in which they would raise an additional 85 billion rand a year. Well, quite frankly, you can buy 3.5 Gauteng freeway improvement projects for that price. But they decided that the issue of e-tolling in Gauteng is not important. Let's talk about South Africa. The fact is that they came up with all different stories contradicting one another. First off, the Minister of Transport said between R3.17 and R3.65. Then Tiani Rakotsa, the spokesperson for the Department of Transport, said no, it's actually R1.15, or sorry, R1.55. Then the next day, the CEO of SANRAL said he'd be very happy to take R3.69 per litre. The question is, why didn't these people just get together and decide on which lie that they were going to perpetrate? But the fact is that this entire story has been conflated. Firstly, all of the civic organizations, the political parties, members of the public, etc., were given a maximum of 2 hours to make their case. SANRAL and the Department of Transport were given 3 days to do so. And that seems a little bit inequitable. And, you know, judging by the way that they conflated things and all the nonsense that they brought to the table, it's hardly surprising that they needed 3 days to do it.
Howard, I want you to talk about the act, but I also just want to say that SANRAL, they blamed the media last week for the inaccurate reporting, they say, and that this fed misperceptions about the e-toll system to the public. We've tried to get SANRAL on the show many times. Unfortunately, they've always declined the invitation. Let's talk about, you wanted to talk about the act?
Yeah. Look, very quickly on that score, it's quite sad that they've blamed the media, given the fact that I actually have a recording and watched Mr. Mawethu Vilana, the Acting Director General for Transport, in a TV interview talking about an extra R3.17 and an extra R3.65 per litre. So it's sad that they decided to make those kind of allegations. And let's just remember that all of those panel discussions are actually available on YouTube if you have 18 hours to sit and watch them. In any case, the Act, the National Road Traffic Act, I don't know if you remember, but last month was Transport Month. And just in time for the close of Transport Month, on the 31st of October, the Department of Transport, the Minister of Transport, published a set of new regulations amendments, which are going to bring in a whole lot of new regulations and a whole lot of amendments. Firstly, as from the 31st of October, you are now required to, in effect, RICA yourself when making an e-Natus transaction. In other words, processing a licensing transaction, etc. You need to take your proof of residence with you. So I'd like everyone to be aware of that. The other thing that I'd like them to be aware of is, as of the 31st of October, it is now compulsory for all infants under the age of 3 years to be contained in a child restraint whilst traveling in a motor vehicle that is not a minibus, taxi, or a bus. This is very important, and I'll tell you why it's important, because this provision has never actually existed before. Child restraints have been optional. This particular legislation makes it compulsory for infants to be in child restraints, not for children, unfortunately, but for infants. And the other unfortunate thing is no grace period has been allowed or anything like that for people to comply.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Howard Domboski is the chairperson of the Justice Project South Africa, giving us our monthly update on what's going on South Africa's roads. At the moment, the picture's not looking too good. We're killing each other. We had a shooting last week before. A guy was shot 6 times during a road rage accident. This weekend, kilometre from our house, they hit a guy in the head with an axe 3 times. Don't know what's going on.